Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana, March 16, 1967. Before dawn, sentries and maintenance crews near the base's nuclear missile silos see mysterious lights flying back and forth across the sky. These lights are so bright that the men on the ground can't identify what they are. But when one of them takes up a position just outside the base's security fence, a sentry calls his superior to report a UFO.
The people on the ground were trying to make sense of this sudden wave of sightings. Alarms started going off. The nuclear weapons were going off alert, which means they were moving into a state in which they could not have been fired. When one missile seemed to shut itself off, it was a huge deal. There was an uproar. People thought, well, there were maintenance crews at this site. Maybe they were doing work on it that required taking the missile offline. They didn't notify us. They didn't follow protocol. But when the other missiles started to go offline in rapid succession, they realized something really unusual was happening. In fact, they brought in teams of engineers later to try to figure out what had happened.
This was documented in memoranda that went back and forth between that facility and NORAD about how could this happen. They were trying to explain how in the world does this happen, because this is obviously something that would be of immense interest to the national security people in charge of our weapons.
Boeing, who made the missiles, could not find what was wrong with them. They could duplicate the fault by sending electronic signals into one part of the electronic system of the missile. But that system was protected by shielded cables and the rest. So how they were taken offline is not known to this day.
But who, or what, was responsible for the seemingly inexplicable nuclear shutdown? The Washington-based Disclosure Project has done detailed research on encounters between the military and UFOs. And based on the evidence, they are convinced this incident was an alien encounter.
A UFO somehow took offline and rendered unlaunchable at least 16 and maybe up to 20 intercontinental ballistic missiles. The men who were there have told me that it wasn't just that there was the effect, they actually did see the UFO.
Is it possible that aliens at Malmstrom Air Force Base were trying to send us a message? Some ancient astronaut theorists believe that the high number of UFO sightings reported near military installations indicates that aliens are not only present in America, but that they have taken measures to shape our future.
3, 2, 1.
Ever since we detonated the first atomic weapon, UFOs have taken an interest in our nuclear facilities.
They are wanting to see to what extent we might be a risk to this planet and to others who may be out in space who are peaceful.
Could it be that extraterrestrials have been visiting us now in much greater numbers since we developed the capability to annihilate the planet with nuclear weapons, specifically to ensure that we do not do so?
When a flurry of UFO sightings started being reported in the late 1940s and 50s, some Native Americans took it as a warning sign based on their own stories of star beings. In 1948, a Navajo writer named Ogamaki wrote a magazine article drawing parallels between the modern UFO phenomenon and the experiences of the native people who lived in the Death Valley area of California.
It describes a past of the Paiute Indians. And there was a species of human who lived in the mountains on the west side of Death Valley, who had a marvelous and complicated civilization. It contained vast rowing boats, as they're described in this myth, vast flying machines.
Oga Make questions white man's thinking that stories of flying saucers and mystery ships are something new. And he says, and I quote, "If you had red skin, you'd know that this is not true." He writes that his people have been seeing objects like this in the sky for thousands of years. And he basically says that for his people, the idea that aliens have visited Earth is not merely a theory, but it's a fact.
The elder Paiute chief who told this story said that they believe that these UFOs have an interest in our Earth and that they don't want to see our environment, our world, destroyed by the actions of man.
Roswell, New Mexico. This sleepy town in America's Southwest was once best known for its large military airbase. But that changed in 1947, when a local rancher reported that a spaceship crashed on his property. Several weeks later, the U.S. Army issued a press release confirming the existence of an alien craft. The next day, the military changed its story and announced that what they had found was a weather balloon. These conflicting reports sent shockwaves around the world, and the name Roswell became a pop culture code word that forever links extraterrestrial visitation with enduring mystery.
Speculation about why the Roswell crash would be covered up is difficult to pin down. Some people talk about this in terms of information that would be shattering to our worldview.
Almost everyone's heard about the so-called Roswell event. And one of the real implications of disclosure is that some of our most cherished myths about the origins of the human race and our history and archaeology would fall apart.
Something happened at Roswell, New Mexico a long time ago. People want the truth. I think there's something in the human being itself that is striving, that is hungry for this knowledge in order to answer questions about our own existence.
Today, public opinion polls indicate more than half the world's population believes aliens have either come here in the past or are coming here now. But what is it exactly that makes so many people believe?
I do think looking upward makes sense. The universe is large. There are things out there we do not understand. There is probably intelligent life somewhere.
People tend to forget that we're on a planet that's 4.5 billion years old. The presence of our civilization in that vast scale of time, I mean, if I click my finger, it wouldn't even be fast enough to say this is the time of our civilization. And to think that we're the only ones in this vast period of time, to me, is absurd.
Our galaxy, the Milky Way, has over 100 billion stars. And in our universe, we think there are more than 100 billion galaxies. So if every star had a planet with intelligent life, how many alien civilizations would we have?
If you take us as the crown of creation or the top of evolution, we look at ourselves as the greatest, the biggest. We say how incredible, unique we are in the whole universe. We forgot to learn modesty.
Each step that we take makes us a little bit less special. We used to think that we were the center of the universe as humans, and then we realized, oh, all right, well, that's not true. But we're the center of the galaxy, and like, well, all right, so we're like 2/3 of the way out in a spiral arm. And then, well, at least our sun, you know, with this, no, the sun is actually in the middle and the Earth goes around it, so Earth isn't even the center of that system. And so the more that we learn, we sort of, you know, it's a very humbling science.
When man first landed on the moon, our perspective on the universe changed forever.
Listen, the Eagle has landed.
We aliens who happened to go down the ladder on July 20th, 1969, we aliens were certainly part of a magnificent race. I just don't think people have a grasp for what energy it takes to go from one star to another.
This historic event raised the question: if humans can successfully navigate in space and explore other worlds, why couldn't beings from other parts of the universe have done the same? And might they have already come to Earth hundreds or perhaps thousands of years ago?
I think human past is more fantastic than we all believe. I have come to the idea that maybe extraterrestrials were on this planet.
Pasadena, California, January 22nd, 2015. Officials with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory announced plans for the Mars helicopter, a drone that will triple the distance a rover can explore. Meanwhile, the privatization of space exploration has created a new $300 billion industry that may soon surpass the advancements of NASA. And there are some ancient astronaut theorists who believe that this private space industry is the brainchild of Wernher von Braun.
Wernher von Braun had the ear of 7 American presidents, the top scientists of the world, and many of the world's industrial leaders. It's natural that you might find the links to the private groups that have the resources, the means, and the dedication to develop their own advanced technology, independent of the governments, independent of the public, the people of the world.
After retiring from NASA in 1972, Wernher von Braun was invited to meetings of the Bohemian Club, a secretive group of high-powered men famous for their rustic retreats. But why? What went on there? It is rumored that some members of the Bohemian Club also belong to private groups called breakaway civilizations that have developed advanced technologies independent of world governments.
I've had insiders that have told me that they worked in this space program, that we do have a breakaway civilization, that it's extremely advanced, that we already have diplomatic relationships with a variety of extraterrestrial species and cultures.
Is it possible von Braun knew of the existence of extraterrestrials? Might his extraordinary efforts to reach space have been motivated by a desire to come in contact with otherworldly beings? Could it have been part of his plan all along for us to have a private space industry that operated in secret?
For the last 60-some years, we've developed no new propulsion technologies at all, and that seems very, very unlikely. So the question becomes, at what point did NASA actually develop the next level of propulsion technology and maybe take it secret?
On June 16, 1977, after a 4-year-long battle with cancer, 65-year-old Wernher von Braun died. His gravestone contains no epitaph, simply a reference to Psalms 19:1, a biblical passage that reads, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." Wernher von Braun's bold predictions that we would put a man on the moon, explore Mars, and build a space station have all come to pass. But was this incredible visionary perhaps preparing us for something even greater? On January 20th, 2015, President Barack Obama announced in his State of the Union address that the next step for the United States space program is a manned mission to Mars.
Now, last month, we launched a new spacecraft as part of a re-energized space program that will send American astronauts to Mars.
Photographs taken on Mars have revealed mysterious formations that some have interpreted as man-made structures, like pyramids, the outline of a sphinx, and even a carving of what appears to be a human-like face. Might life exist on the red planet? And could it be that NASA's next mission isn't to travel there, but to disclose the fact that we have been there before?
There's no question when you look at the surface of Mars that there are ruined artificial structures there. There's no question when you look at photographs of the moon that there are ruined artificial structures there. And it seems very unlikely that it was just us, that it was human beings that built this. The question becomes, did NASA go to different places like the moon and Mars and find things that we would all like to know about but are being hidden from us?
What if we actually are on the moon and it's all classified? What if there is a whole secret infrastructure and that there is already a vast amount of colonization of the moon, of Mars, and of other moons in our solar system as well? Let's all hope that the time is coming soon where we will get disclosure, where the walls of secrecy will finally break down, and we will be told the truth.
What might be the reaction today if extraterrestrials were to actually arrive on Earth and make themselves known to us? Countless science fiction books and films tend to portray aliens coming either to warn us or destroy us.
Since the 1960s, people have been thinking about, well, what do we do? Do we have a day the Earth stood still scenario? If aliens come, do they warn us that our planet's facing disaster? Do they attack us the way the Martians did in War of the Worlds? Well, the answer is more complicated than it seems. It's not just somebody landing and saying, "Take me to your leader."
The general consensus today is that if extraterrestrials were to show up tomorrow, they'd be hostile and they would want to enslave us and battle us and destroy us and all this crazy stuff. In my opinion, that won't be the case, because any civilization that's mastered to travel interstellar space would be benevolent to a lesser advanced society, technologically speaking.
Simple statistic shows that if we make contact with extraterrestrial civilization, we're the new kids on the block. We're the ones who are at the back of the queue when it comes to intelligence. So they'll be teaching us stuff. We won't have a great deal to teach them.
There are a wide range of benefits that can be derived from accepting that we have neighbors in the galaxy that are visiting us. There are reports of medical treatments that have been performed for the benefit of several people who have had contact. There are advanced energy technologies. Reports are that some of these have been reverse engineered already and are used in military craft. There are communications technologies. So really, any area of life that we have could be beneficially impacted by acknowledging that there are these other people out there, that they have information, knowledge that they can share with us that would benefit us.
It's going to depend how the discovery comes about. If in fact it's a distant radio broadcast, we might expect one thing. If in fact there's some type of visitation that fits in with beliefs about UFOs, that might be something else. But on the whole, I think people are much more prepared for, shall we say, contact.
Many who believe contact with extraterrestrials is inevitable suggest governments need to prepare themselves. It's a field of study known as exopolitics.
Exopolitics poses the question, what should our response be to that situation at a societal level? Not necessarily at a governmental level, but actually individuals. How can we reach out with the hand of friendship?
Exopolitics has really been a grassroots movement of people concerned about this issue and want disclosure on the UFO subject, and also want to help organize people locally to get the information out through their governments and make this big change happen.
But if we reach out in friendship, what guarantee do we have that it will be returned in kind? Many scientists, including famed theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking, believe alien beings could pose a threat and suggest we do everything possible to prevent contact.
If extraterrestrials or aliens were aggressive or warlike and they came here, is it a case where resistance is futile? How do you wipe out life on planet Earth? That's easy, a plague. Simple, no UFOs, no zorching beams from the sky, no explosions, no Empire State Building collapsing, none of that. We can do that. Why can't aliens do that?
To think that we would be able to come up with some type of a defense mechanism or have defenses against interstellar traveling society is ludicrous.
Whether they came as friend or foe, if extraterrestrials did land somewhere in the United States, it's possible the aliens would be greeted by government or military personnel, wearing hazmat suits and testing for harmful pathogens and radiation. Many conspiracy theorists suspect the government's next step would be to cover up the visitation. They cite as evidence a reputed sighting that took place over Washington, D.C. in 1952.
In full view of the entire world, a squadron, a formation of UFOs buzzed Washington and fought our own F-93 jet fighters. General Samford willingly and deliberately, maybe on instructions from Harry Truman, who was president, lied to the American people.
We have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them.
His own Captain Ruppelt, in his own book on flying saucers, says Samford was lying. We have the letter from the Air Force to Dean Condon saying Deep Six UFOs. So, have UFOs come to planet Earth in full view, have manifested themselves, have shown themselves? Yes. Did we see it? Yes. Was there a protocol for handling it? Yes. That protocol was called deny.
But if an alien visitation proved undeniable, who might be chosen to then speak to those inside the spacecraft? Who could best represent all the nations and interests of Earth?
If aliens do land on Earth, I think we should send our best world leaders who are the most open-minded and reasonable, but who also have the ability to defend themselves against those aliens.
In my opinion, that's one of the reasons we have a United Nations. Yes, it prevents wars and delivers food. But on the other hand, just imagine the Security Council itself convening to deal with aliens, an image on a big screen at the United Nations. The answer is, I think it all happened back in the 1940s, and that was one of the reasons that Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt pushed so hard for the formation of a United Nations to replace the League of Nations. Somebody had to confront the aliens.